I encourage you to all go down and visit the goats because this whole story really begins with them. And in fact, if I could hold one up here now or milk one in front of you, I would do that. If you're curious at all to see a goat be milked, want to see what that's about, want to play in cheese making, just chat. I'm going to go down. Gloria's down there now. I'm going to go down there later. Chat with us. We'll hook you up. And we milk at 7 and 7, and so you can make one of those times and see the process. And we make cheese a couple times a week once we're in milk, which we're just starting to get in now. You have to have babies to have milk. And that said, there's all sorts of interesting things that we're trying to do milk-wise. So I'm going to steal some extra time here because I really want to talk about this. I think that like 90% of the goats in the world are milked by children, and something like 60% of the milk in the world is produced by goats. They're a perfect-sized animal for an urban setting. They have good temperament for it. They don't need the space. Their manure load is very doable. In fact, when you go down there, pay attention to what's under your foot because you can come by. We've got these days where you can come by, and Altadena gardeners find the litter just absolutely magic for their garden. So it's not hot in the same way that, say, cow manure is or horse manure is, and so you can go direct to plant. So there's really a million reasons why goats are good, and we just really need to change the laws so that we can be involved in sharing goats. And there's really no reason that 8 of us should be together on a property this size and sharing the milking duties, sharing the responsibility, even if, like, let's say Gloria and I are caring for them. This is called a goat share or a cow share, and the legality of this is very interesting in California and a little bit dicey. And I think that, as we kind of think about these movements that we're a part of, or at least interested in, was why you're all here today. I think that it's kind of home dairy is really the next big step. It's the new chicken, and so get inspired about goats, because when's the last time? Quick show of hands. When's the last time you had a glass of milk and actually started to cry because it was so delicious? When was the last time? You know when the last time for me was? Last night. The stuff that comes out of these animals, when you take care of them, when you love them, when they're in a setting that's appropriate in terms of like the amount to how many there are, the product that comes.
Wait for the tears.
I just love those guys so much. It's really... So that's what it's all about. You can't do that. It's actually illegal for me to share this with you. So I'm just going to tempt you with it and suggest that if you want any of this, we've got to change some laws. And I think that that's what we should pay some attention to. It would be great to have goat share and cow share in greater Southern California. So let's begin. Cheese 101, beyond the way, beyond the curd. My name is Steve Rudicell. I live here. I take care of these animals. I'm also the owner of the Press Restaurant in Claremont, so I come from a food preparation point of view. Felicia and I are members of the first Master Food Preserver class in California, which is the UC Extension, which is the Ag Extension program in all the states. And it's the first class in something like 10 or 15 years. And we're real excited to be bringing food preservation techniques to the public, jamming, canning, drying, all sorts of stuff. So be on the lookout for that. If you know about the Master Gardener program, it's the same thing except about food preservation. So be looking for those programs at your local community gardens and at farmers markets, and stop by anybody that claims to be a Master Food Preserver and give them a smiling face. Master Food Preserver. And it's through the UC Extension, which is it's the agricultural arm. The U.S. government, about the time of Abraham Lincoln, figured out they needed more scientific farming, and so they put some money into it. So all the A&M universities, every state has an agricultural university, a land grant university there also. Anyway, so that's a little plug for Master Food Preservers. So cheese begins with the milk, and if you're going to make cheese, you absolutely want to find the best quality, freshest milk that you can. This is going to be a challenge for many of us. There's a lot of bad publicity about raw milk. I'm pro raw milk myself. As a Master Food Preserver, I need to tell you that the USDA tells you that you should not consume raw milk or raw milk products like cheese. That said, those choices have to be yours. And there's a whole politics and interesting biochemistry to that. There's a whole history of why we don't have more raw milk. Where did raw milk go? Why is it, why is it so fringy? Why did it get out of Whole Foods about 6 months ago? There's a whole real interesting history of that, and I urge you to kind of follow up on that if you're interested. But super fresh, high quality milk is where it all begins. And on your little handout there, you can see a detail about milk composition. And from a cheesemaking perspective, this is sort of, you don't need to know this in order to make cheese at home, but this is pretty interesting. And what you're essentially doing with cheese is you are trying to bind the fat to the casein, which is a particular kind of protein, and expel the water and the whey protein. You're binding the fat and the casein, the lactose and the ash, which is all the various minerals and salts and non-nitrogen products that are in the cheese. Anyway, that's all super technical. You're trying to bind those all together into what's called a curd, and then you're dealing with that curd in some way. You're trying to press it, you're trying to cook it, you're trying to age it, and how you do that is why we have thousands and thousands and thousands kinds of cheese. But really the process, which is outlined in the next little middle part of that, is essentially the same, and kind of the details of that are what I'm going to talk about today. The basic, the recipe that we're going to be not really making because it's an hours-long process, but that I'm going to be showing you the stages of is this mold-ripened crottin over here. The French make a lot of these kinds of cheeses. They tend to be small. This is ours in process right now. I'll let you all take a closer look at that. This one's about 10 days old. This is the first of the milk from our girls, and we're real excited about it. We cut one open last night and had it. It was delicious. I highly recommend this kind of cheese with a nice, very minerally Sauvignon Blanc. That's a Sancerre, a Puy Fumé, go French, spend the money. The California and New Zealand ones are too big and too fruity for this kind of cheese. That was an aside. I've got a list of books here. I've got a bunch of copies and a list of books on the bottom. Really, if you want to make cheese at home, the book to buy is that first one, and that's why I listed it. Ricky Carroll, Home Cheesemaking. She's got really all the details and lots of cool drawings, nice recipes that won't fail you. There's also some web resources, because once you get into this, you're going to need to buy some cultures. You're going to need to maybe buy some molds. You're going to need to buy some equipment, perhaps, to get this thing to go. And so those sources at the bottom are pretty interesting. For cultures, which we'll talk about in a second here, I really like Dairy Connection. That third one up from the bottom is a company. It's out of Wisconsin, and they started to distribute commercial products, but in consumer packages. So you can really get this beautiful French starter cultures and gorgeous American-made rennet that are not always widely available. Okay, so the first thing that you do as a home cheesemaker is you start with the highest quality that you can. Homogenization is not your friend. The process of homogenizing milk is to shoot it through a very, very fine orifice, which breaks down the large fat molecules, and that creates surface area. This raw milk, if I was to let this spoil, it would just sort of gently go sour over the course of about a week. There wouldn't be that kind of rancidity that you get with homogenized milk. And the reason is because you've flattened out the surface area of all these fat molecules, which have all these natural protections to them. And so once you break those molecules apart by shooting them through this very fine orifice so that the milk doesn't separate, so that you're not showing the customer how much cream is in the milk. Once you do that, you really you create a lot of danger for yourself as a cheesemaker. And so watch for off flavors and stuff. Homogenization is going to be a little bit of a problem. Fresher cheeses tend to work better for homogenization because they don't do well with long-term aging. The other thing that's not your friend is pasteurization, which of course most commercially available milk is. And there are several ways to pasteurize. The problem with purchasing pasteurized fluid milk is that it tends to be heated up to a point of killing everything, because the last thing that Ador Farms or whoever's cooling the milk wants to do is kill some poor kid who's just having it on his cereal. So they're going to essentially kill that milk so that there's no spoilage bacteria, no botulism, no salmonella. They're going to really want to boil all that stuff off. So if you're a commercial dairy, what you're going to do is you're going to buy raw milk, and there's a